Hello, every pony, and welcome back to Fandom Fridays, where we proceed to check out the fanfics that are not pony related. Why? Because I have nothing more to do, and I haven't had this many chances to do the early morning reading in ages. So let's do some Naruto. Should warn you though, this is gonna start talking about some sensitive subjects. So if you are immature like us, she suggests you leave the room. Meow. Ahem. Pre-Berry Memorial Library is proud to present Springtime of Our Lives by Carrie Quinn. Springtime of Our Lives by Carrie Quinn. Chapter 1. The latest mission is a complete snafu. Team 7 is sent to help out watch the shepherd's flock after he and his entire family come down with debilitating flu. It's lambing season, and with these, the predators stalk their herd, and so the Hokage saw fit to send a Ginning squad to keep an eye out. It should have been a simple mission, something which Naruto complained loudly about the whole way there. Turns out, though, that watching sheep is more difficult than expected. Not for the difficulty is common sense might suggest. In fact, sheep have an innate genius for sense of self-inflicted harm. The beasts are too stunned to file through an open gate, but apparently have an inventive talent for getting themselves killed. Sakura and the rest of her team spend 3 days following the woolly demons to keep them from wandering off high bluffs, choking themselves on low-lying branches or tree roots, poisoning themselves on toxic plants. They almost lost one to drowning, and at some point, Naruto came up with the bright idea to scare them into running their pen, instead starting a stampede. Then was the wolf. Everything just went bad after that, Sakura thinks with a wince. Everything hurts, from her eyelids to her breasts. Not that they're really breasts. She could barely see them when she examines herself at the mirror at night, wishing jealously for the same chest growth spurt that Ino has already experienced. Still, they ache enough to make their existence known, almost as much as the stabbing pain in her abdomen. I swear, if I caught some bacteria or bug while tramping through the mud and sheep crap, I'll go and kill Kakashi! All Sakura wants to do right now is curl up into her bed and sleep. Somehow, everything is rubbing her the wrong way right now. Her hands sting hotly, sweat covered and yet chapped. There's a blister booming beneath the ball of her left foot. Every crevice of her feet feels too hot, damp, and chafing. She's far too big for herself. She's far more conscious of the smell of her body than she would like. I need a shower, like right now, she decides fervently, wondering in silent horror if her teammates can smell her. Almost the moment this fear rises up, Naruto calls her name suddenly. Oi! Sakura! You're bleeding! Why didn't you say you were hurt? The little traveling quartet came to a stop. Everyone is looking at her in concern, while Sakura blinks at the sudden attention. Her other two teammates follow the line of Naruto's gaze, and Sakura could do nothing but follow their cue, glancing down to see what everyone is staring at. A red-brown stain spreads across her tunic several inches beneath her navel. She's confused, because she hasn't noticed any wound to cause the blood. Going over their adventures that morning, she doesn't recall any instance that would have injured her in such a way. She glances over at Kakashi, who surprised examines her with experienced gravity, and peeks at Sasuke. She's as confused as she is. His eyes flit over her with a curtness that doesn't seem to hide concern, and they widen when suddenly close realization. A beat later, his cheeks go red. She can't understand his look before it snaps away. Ah. Later, Sakura will be embarrassed at several moments she takes for the small, pulsating stain of red-brown makes sense. It is the time it takes for the significance of his location to set in. When it does, she experiences a jolt to her heart, a tingling sensation of her cheeks losing blood. Consciousness of her body's various sensations all rush back to her then. The cramping pain through her pelvic area, dense sensation between her legs and up across her tailbone, the vague nausea. She's never gone through it before, but knows now what it is. It's her period. Sakura is finally menstruating after waiting for ages. She didn't notice it because the aches and pains of her nail masked it. She experiences a bizarre compulsion to laugh at that. And Ino doesn't have hers yet. She's gonna be so jealous I'm a woman first. Yeah. Before Nora realizes and crashes into her. She got her monthly bleeding in front of her teammates. Her three male teammates. Two of whom are the absolute last people you would want to know about this, because one is the boy she's utterly in love with, and the other is Naruto. Sakura yells and falls into a tree-lined path, away from them, ignoring the shouts for her to return. She doesn't stop until she finds a shaded booth off in the distance, where she can discreetly try to deal with the problem. A swath of bandages and her medkit serve as a makeshift pad within her underwear to stop some of the flow, but her clothing remains saturated. There's no scrubbing the blood from the front and back of her tunic. Why? She knocks her head against a nearby tree, as if that will keep the blood from her cheeks. Tears get in her eyes, as much as mortification as her growing awareness of just how much her abdomen hurts. Several yards away and out of view, she hears the familiar cough and cringes. Will you be all right, Sakura? Kakashi asks, calm as usual. He's very good at keeping any inflection out of his words, but she saw his eyes before she fled. He is not comfortable with this. I'll be fine. I'll be right back, she sniffs. But she can keep from crying. That's all she needs right now is to have puffy eyes on top of this. What would Sasuke say? Sakura, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Kakashi goes on. She winces, expecting him to transition into an awkward talk about the mysteries of her body, the way her mother did. Have you gone through this before? No, she whispers. Do you need me to explain? No! She yells before she can stop herself. Then a quieter voice says, I know what to do. My mother told me, and we had a class. All right. He sounds relieved. And you also know you have to report to the hospital when you get back to the village. All shinobi must be on some form of birth control for field missions once the time is right. I know that, she retorts, tone short as she hungs her elbow at herself in embarrassment. He just wants to be done with this. This is not something to be ashamed of, Sakura. Kakashi tells her, as he realized she spoke out loud. She clenches her eyes shut, humiliated. I know. Miracle alive and now I'm a woman and all that. I already know that, Kakashi Sensei. So please. It's not just that. He interrupts. Think of it as your body's way of conditioning you. Sakura pauses at this. Never heard it put it this way before. The woman who taught her and the other girls about the menstrual cycle explained it in soft terms such as moontime, or visits from Little Miss Strawberry, a time of her body weeping because it had no child, and it was a sign of a woman's weakness that needed to be overcome by ignoring both the pain and crudeness of it. Her ears perked up. Conditioning, like training? Exactly, Kakashi says. Sakura pauses, then cautiously comes out from behind her hiding space, consider and strikes her. He's leaning against a tree, casual and unimposing, giving her a respectful distance. What do you mean? Sakura asks, taking a tentative step forward. Through the bushes that still obscure her lower body. You are capable of handling greater discomfort than either Sasuke or even Naruto will ever be able to do, Kakashi tells her. Considering the pain both of them have had in their lives already, that's rather substantial. Wait, what? As a Kunoichi, you're expected to meet all the same standards as male shinobi, as well as enduring a regular pain that male men never can. He continues, that makes you stronger in many ways. And that's not even referring to those women who become mothers. They're in a category of their own. That magnitude of strength was never meant to be a source of pain. If it was, it would not have been a function necessary to human survival. He cocks his head, meeting her gaze, don't you think? I... Sakura's thoughts staggered together at that, because it makes the kind of obvious sense she feels silly for not considering earlier. She hadn't had people telling her from childhood that this sort of thing she had to hide, be worried about others knowing. She might have reacted to its occurrence with mere curiosity, struck it as a quirk of the female human body. Even her mother, in most sympathetic way, told Sakura that it was a woman's task to ensure no man knew she was undergoing her flowering time. Women are uncomfortable about this sort of thing, Mama informed her when Sakura was the age to start asking questions. So it's better to only talk about these matters with other women around. Girls at school always talked about accidentally bleeding through their clothes with the same severity losing their bladder in public. One of those things I can control. The other I can't. The Nelson is one she suddenly understands that not many people, even other women, are able to make. Well, Kakashi's watching her face. The gleam in his eye suggesting he's watching her come to her important conclusion that she has. Yes, Sakura agrees. Feels almost invisible or tangible, she settled the first way to place. That makes sense. I thought so too. He agrees. I'll tell my girlfriend she's incredibly smart. Sakura snorts at this. Right, as if I believe you have a girlfriend. I do. No offense, Kakashi-sensei, but no one who reads as much porn out in the open could get a girlfriend. Sakura tells him. Women have standards. Kakashi's wide eyes suggest he's gaping at her, then sighs loudly. No respect. He sighs in a long, suffering voice, glances up at the sky to judge time. Anyhow, it's getting late. We can either sit here in this bush forever, or we can get up and go home. I'm open to both, but personally it's just the latter, because at some point we're all going to get hungry. And between you and me, I don't trust Naruto not to try and cannibalize Sasuke. As if Sasuke would let him, Sakura sniffs, automatically coming to the defense of the Uchiha boy. Kakashi's eyes crinkle a bit at that. Sakura can't help her own tiny smile. Then she exhales and steels herself. If she could handle walking back to Konoha with blood seeping through her clothes, she could do anything. This is not something to be embarrassed about. Besides, maybe everyone will just think I'm wounded on the mission, she adds in false hope. It's very obvious where her bleeding is coming from, though she's not especially confident about that possibility. Come on, let's suck it up and go. Of course, as usual, it's easier to breathe in her head than it is outside. Kakashi perhaps notices her hesitation, because he suddenly strikes it out of his black jacket. Red spiral tattoo that stands out sparkling the pale skin of his bicep. Before she could comprehend his puzzling action, pulls it outside by the sleeves, only the dark blue interior shows, and holds it out to her. Your choice, if you want, he tells her, and Sakura gratefully accepts. I'll be brave about bleeding through my clothes some other day. She decides to rest the jacket around her waist, and the sleeves hanging across her front in a way to obscure the stain there. Just not today. She feels that, considering the misadventures with Sheep, she is totally justified in not feeling very confident right now. Let's go, she says at last, fighting against the nervous tremble in her voice as she stands up. She tries not to feel very conscious of the feeling of her thighs rubbing and a wide pad of linen between her legs. Sakura tips out from behind the bush and heads back to the road where Sasuke and Naruto are waiting. They're loitering noticeably, and when she gets in 3 feet of them, the three preteens looking at each other and quickly look away. Kakashi returns and says, Let's get going, kids, and heads onward, in an uncomfortable silence. His students follow them. While they continue their walk, Naruto sneaks glances at her, oddly tense. Sakura suspects Kakashi explained to him what was going on before he came looking for her. The blond boy looks unsure if she grossed out or intimidated or in awe of her, and herself for a rude awakening. As if he has any business staring at me. Sakura is about to reach over and punch him for it, when he swivels suddenly, demands of Kakashi. Hey, Kakashi-sensei, did that tattoo hurt? I wanted to get one for becoming a genin, but stupid old man doing tattoos said it hurt too much for kids. I told him I could take it, but he didn't believe me. You could put a good word for me? The babble is louder, more noticeable than usual. The way forced conversations tend to be, but as a step back to Naruto normal, Sakura relaxes a bit, glad that Naruto isn't going to be his usual toned-in self, and started asking a bunch of embarrassing questions. It's hard to be completely at ease, though, especially as Sasuke doesn't even look at her. It makes her already shaky confidence waver. What if this embarrasses so much he can never look at her again without remembering her bleeding through the clothing? But then while Naruto starts to describe the tattoo he wants, a robot fighting a giant lizard, Sasuke suddenly speaks. Ginger. Huh? Sakura says for want of anything intelligent to say. Ginger Chi. He clarifies, not looking at her, but he is imagining it, the back of his neck red. My father always made my mother Ginger Chi when she was... It eases the pain. Yeah, my mother says that too. Sakura replies shyly. She's warming up once more. So rare he talks about his family, that he almost forgets what he's making reference to. It's also easier to find than something like dark chocolate if we get along, selling a long mission away. He continues, we should all suck up. He quickens his pace, putting distance between them and making an effective end to any personal conversation. But the rest of Sakura warns at that. Though she knows he's simply taking all this in his usual logical stride, and his team experienced monthly bouts of pain could affect their mission, it still shows Sasuke's concern. Almost makes up for him having witnessed the most embarrassing moment of her entire life. Almost. Um, yeah. So, that, about that, yeah. Okay, let's put away some comedy for a bit. This week does talk about a natural subject that happens to women that shouldn't be shamed and shouldn't be scared, and a personal subject. And it's probably something that three teens probably would have a conversation about or get worried about on that trip. What makes this chapter unique is that it is something that's rarely addressed in other stories, shows, because we don't talk about it. We're nervous about it. It's kind of a personal thing. But it is good to have stories to talk about it from all angles, even from a serious point of view. That was one down. Fastest more to go. I gotta get out of here before the rest of the girls out there kill me.